I'm at 33 North Dearborn Street in Chicago, Illinois, in front of an old, boarded-up Bank of America. Doesn't look like much today, but once upon a time, this was a stop on somebody's perfect day. This was the place where Ferris Bueller once stood on a float in the von Steuben Day Parade, singing Twist and Shout. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is my favorite movie, and one of the reasons I love it so much is that it takes place in my beloved hometown of Chicago. Many of the locations in the film look pretty similar to how they did when the film was shot over 25 years ago, while some are hardly recognizable. We're gonna go take a tour of all the places Ferris visited on his day off. But I don't want to just look at the places. I want to recapture the experience of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We got a lot to do. Let's go. We're in the affluent suburb of Northbrook, Illinois,
where John Hughes, the writer and director of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, actually grew up. Many of the suburban scenes from Ferris Bueller's Day Off were shot in Northbrook, or nearby northern Chicago suburbs such as Highland Park, Des Plaines, and Winnetka.
Interestingly, Ferris's house actually isn't in Northbrook, Illinois. It's shot in Long Beach, California. The fictitious name of Ferris Bueller's town in the movie is Shermer.
The scene where Jeannie is in the police station is the only time in the movie I know of with a reference to Shermer. There's a 1-second shot of a police badge with Shermer written on it. John Hughes likely called the town Shermer because prior to 1923, Northbrook was called Shermerville. Also, Shermer Road happens to surround the subdivision of Glenbrook North High School, which was the inspiration for many of Hughes' movie plots. Turns out, almost all of John Hughes' movies take place in Shermer, such as Weird Science, 16 Candles, Uncle Buck, and The Breakfast Club. Or the characters happen to be from Shermer, such as the Griswolds in National Lampoon's Vacation, John Candy's family, the Ripleys, in The Great Outdoors, and Steve Martin's character Neil in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
This is 538 Chestnut Street in Winnetka, Illinois. It's another suburb very close to Northbrook. And this is the real estate firm, Koenig and Stray, where Mrs. Bueller works.
Katie Bueller.
This is Edward R. Rooney, Dean of Students.
And as you can see, it's the exact same firm as in the movie. This is an important scene because we're introduced to Mr. Rooney, and we find out that Ferris Bueller has been absent 9 times.
9 times.
I don't remember him being sick 9 times.
That's probably because he wasn't sick. He was skipping school.
Between Cedar Lane and Meadow Road, right by the Glenbrook train station, we have the famous water tower that says Save Ferris on it. As you can see, it's been wiped clean. I think it'd be nice in honor of John Hughes, perhaps to put the Save Ferris back up there. It'd be kind of like in Philadelphia, the way they put the Rocky statue next to the art museum. This is Cameron Frye's house at 370 Beach Street in Highland Park, Illinois. It's actually only a block away from Tom Cruise's house in Risky Business. The house was built in 1953, and the owners recently died, and it's on the market now. It's selling for $2.3 million.
If I had to live in that house, I'd probably pray for disease too. The place is like a museum. It's very beautiful and very cold, and you're not allowed to touch anything.
That's actually true. The inside of the house really does have a museum-like feel. A lot of its furnishings seem right out of the 50s, and there's a lot of art from all over the world.
As you can see, the driveway is still gravel like in the movie, and you can always remember it when you see the scene where Cameron jumps out of his car and he's just jumping around. This is the garage at Cameron's house. The owners actually call it a pavilion because it's got a kitchen inside and it's got an art studio that belonged to the original owner. This is the window that the car goes through when it goes into the ravine.
Holy shit!
The film was shot in the fall, around the same time I shot this documentary. So the crew supposedly painted a lot of the plants around the house green, because the story takes place in the spring.
The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT, California. Less than 100 were made. My father spent 3 years restoring this car. It is his love, it is his passion.
It is his fault he didn't lock the garage.
I wanted the Ferris Bueller Ferrari. I got a Miami Vice replica. Rick, tell us about the Ferris Bueller car.
Well, the Ferris Bueller car was a replica of a 1961 Ferrari California Spider. It's custom-built chassis using a fiberglass shell to replicate the lines of the Ferrari.
So it was a replica too?
Yes. And it was made by a company called Modena out of California, who is now defunct. Ferrari actually shut them down because they didn't want copyrights of their body styles.
Que bella.
So Rick, I was wondering, how did they fit 3 people in the car? Was the car in the movie bigger than this one?
No, that's Hollywood magic. What they've done was, on the real California Spider, there was a wall between the seats and the trunk. What they did was cut out the seat area so that Cameron can actually slide into the trunk. They removed the convertible top to give him a little extra room. What they did was they put the boot on it. In the scene where they picked up Sloan and Cameron comes out, you can see how the bonnet is kind of wavy, it's kind of sagging, because there's not the support of the convertible top underneath it. But that's the only way he can actually get in behind the driver's seat.
Wow. Ferris? He never drives it. He just rubs it with a diaper.
Look, I'm sorry. There's nothing else we can do.
This brings us to Shermer High School.
Bueller. Bueller.
Many of the scenes inside Ferris's high school were shot at Maine North High School at 9511 Harrison Street in Des Plaines, Illinois. The school was a logical shooting location as it was less than 5 miles from Northbrook, and it had been closed in 1981. Hughes had also previously shot scenes for the Breakfast Club at the school in 1984, where they built a set for the library and the gym. And check out the first shot of the film, Shermer High School. Hasn't changed a bit. Today the building is used as district quarters for the Illinois State Police.
Hey! 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 What if you need a favor someday from Ferris Bueller? Then where'll you be, huh? You heartless wench!
The high school's exterior was shot at the entrance to the Performing Arts Center of Glenbrook North High School in Northbrook, John Hughes' alma mater.
This is Glenbrook North High School at the Center for Performing Arts. In the movie, this played the actual entrance of the school where Mr. Rooney and Sloan were waiting for Ferris to come. But in reality, it's only the entrance to the Performing Arts Center.
To drive to downtown Chicago from Northbrook, the typical route is to take I-94 East, otherwise known as the Kennedy Expressway, which Ferris appears to do. But what many people don't realize is that before Ferris heads to the parking garage, he first drives through downtown so he can take a joyride on Chicago's beautiful Lakeshore Drive.
This is the parking garage from the movie. We're on Madison Street, right by Wells. And I have to say, I'm pretty damn disappointed. I thought there was going to be a parking attendant here, just like in the movie.
Oh, you fellas have nothing to worry about. I'm a professional.
Professional what?
Now we're under the L track on Wells Street, and you probably recognize it from certain other films like Blues Brothers. Funny thing is, when the guys steal the car, they were going east to get to Wells, and Madison actually only goes west. It's a one-way street.
When you freeze this shot, you can see that right after the Wells and Madison intersection, the cars on the street are parked in the opposite direction than the Ferrari was going, as the parking attendants make a break for it. But it's Hollywood.
Ferris, you think the car's all right?
Sure. This is the world's tallest building.
So I'm at the Willis Tower now, formerly the Sears Tower, 233 South Wacker.
The tower is more than 1,450 feet high, and it was the world's tallest building from 1973 to 1998. In 2009, it was renamed the Willis Tower, which still sounds ridiculous to me, as I've called it Sears my whole life. Willis just makes me think of different strokes.
What you talking about, Willis?
Okay, now, lean forward against the glass like this.
Oh my God.
Isn't that great?
The city looks so peaceful from up here.
Anything is peaceful from 1,353 feet. We got a lot to do. Let's go.
I'm at 20 South Wacker Drive, home to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the place where the trading floor scene takes place in the film.
In 2007, the Mercantile Exchange bought its Chicago rival commodities exchange, the Board of Trade. And because the majority of trading today is done on the computer, as opposed to the trading floor like in the movie, the Mercantile Exchange moved its few remaining trading pits to the floor of the Board of Trade. So I went to the Board of Trade instead.
So the Merc is a futures exchange where you can trade everything from equities to commodities.
Now, what are commodities? commodities are agricultural products, like coffee that you had for breakfast, wheat, which is used to make bread, pork bellies, which is used to make bacon, which you might find in a bacon and lettuce and tomato sandwich.
When I was trying to figure out where this scene was shot, it was difficult because some of the sites said it was shot at the Mercantile Exchange, some of the sites said it was shot at the Board of Trade. And I looked on the screen and I knew it was the Mercantile Exchange because of the jackets. The jackets they're wearing are yellow. The Board of Trade, they got all kinds of colors. So what Cameron is doing in this scene is known as arb, or arbitrage. And what that is for people in these pits, they're really noisy and they need to communicate generally just whether to buy or sell. And so they use hand signals. They're not actually mandatory, but back in the 70s, they invented these hand signals. This signal represents a quarter bid. The buyer's hand is facing inward as if to bring something toward him.
I'm at the private residence of 22 East Schiller Street. This is actually the facade for the restaurant in the movie, Chez Qui, the favorite spot of Abe Froman, Sausage King of Chicago.
That's right. I'm Abe Froman.
The Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah, that's me.
Chez Qui is actually based on a restaurant in LA, just in case you might have been thinking that it was based on Chez Paul, the snooty restaurant from Blues Brothers, another Chicago masterpiece.
As you can see, the facade has totally changed in the last 24 years.
We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Dave, you're one of the brightest guys in this business. You know what it takes to push this over the top. We're going to go heavy on TV, we'll lighten up on the radio and the print, okay? He's got the money. Look, come on back to my office.
We
I'll
don't
lay out
have
the
the
entire...
money. He's got the...
Ferris,
Hi.
you sound terrible.
Really? Darn. I thought I was improving.
This beautiful building here is 333 West Wacker Drive. It's featured in several of the film's montages, and it's where Ferris's dad works.
There's a drive, left field, twisting, and into foul territory.
So we're here at Wrigley Field, which has got to be my favorite spot in all of Chicago. As you can see, the outside at 1060 West Addison is pretty similar as it was in the film in 1985. The main difference, of course, is that now we have lights. The lights were put into Wrigley Field in 1988.
The field was built in 1914, and it's the second oldest stadium in Major League Baseball, right behind Boston's Fenway Park, built in 1912.
Hey, swing batter, Kennedy, swing batter.
It's in section 140, row 7. And it's approximately the same location that Ferris Bueller was sitting in foul territory, but he was on the other side of the field.
What's the score?
Nothing.
Who's winning?
The Bears.
So now I'm at the Art Institute at 111 South Michigan Avenue, where Sloan, Cameron, and Ferris go after the Cub game. It's the second largest art museum in the country, second only to the Met in New York.
That part of the movie always seems to sort of stick out from the rest. It's kind of a tangent from the normal comedy. It's like all of a sudden you've got this like comedy rhythm, and it's just interrupted. And they go to this museum, and there's the montage with the classical music, and it really almost doesn't belong in a comedy like this, but John Hughes envisioned them going to the Art Institute as part of the perfect day. Maybe it didn't totally go along with the rhythm of a normal comedy, but it works.
This is Federal Center Plaza, 230 South Dearborn, and this is the statue that Sloan and Cameron walked by while Ferris is up on the float singing Dankeschön. Now we're on Dearborn Street, just east of Monroe, and this is one of the main spots that the parade in the movie took place. And today they don't do any more parades on Dearborn Street. A local cop told me today because, as you can see, we're around all these different federal buildings. And after the Oklahoma City bombing and 9/11, of course, they decided that it was too much of a security risk to do the parades on Dearborn. You know, for me, the parade is one of my favorite scenes because as a filmmaker, I could just see that it was just so damn fun to make.
What do you think Ferris is gonna do?
It's gonna be a fry cook on Venus.
Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. Work it on out. Work it on out. Work it on out. You know you look so good. Look so good. You know you got me going now. Just like I knew you would. Like I knew you would. Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. Come on and work it on out. Work it on out. You know you twist it, little girl. Twist it, little girl. You know you twist so fine. Twist so fine. Come on and twist a little closer now. Twist a little closer. Let me know that you're mine. Know you're mine.
This is Glencoe Beach in Glencoe, Illinois, very close to Northbrook. This is the spot where Sloane and Ferris take Cameron when he goes catatonic. And it's an interesting scene in the movie because it's the one part where Ferris gets a little bit serious about himself.
Sloane's his bigger problem. She still has another year of high school. How do I deal with that? I was serious when I said I would marry her. I would.
And if you look at this wall here, it's kind of funny to think about taking this guy who's just gone crazy and you lie him on a wall that's about 1.5 feet wide.
Jeannie, what the hell are you doing? You trying to kill us? God, look at this mess. Paper all over the place. I'll never get this back in order.
We are now driving down the same Northbrook suburban streets run by Ferris at the end of the movie. Check out what I found when I played my footage in reverse. On the right side of the street, do you see the sign? And then do you see the mailbox? Must be a good mailbox because it looks the same over 25 years later.
Now we're at the house where Ferris runs through.
No, don't get up.
Hey!
It smells delicious.
Dinner's ready. What? What's that?
As you see in the film, there's the driveway, and you've got this red tree over there. It's now a heck of a lot bigger than it was over 20 years ago. And here, where all these bushes are, they ripped these up and put a track down for the camera, which followed Ferris as he goes through these windows here. And it's got the famous line, "Smells delicious." So after Ferris runs through the house, he gets to this deck right here, and there's people sitting here. He says, "Dinner's ready," and he jumps off the deck like so, and then he starts going to the next lawn. We're in another important yard from the chase scene. This is the one where the barbecue is supposed to have been. It was probably about here, and the people that were eating in the background are around those trees there. So Ferris comes through from those yards over there, comes around, comes to the barbecue, steals the drink from the guy, and then he runs further over that way. This brings us to the next yard. It's the yard with the famous trampoline shot. Ferris runs over, he jumps on a swing set, and he lands on a trampoline in slow motion. And probably where I'm standing is where they had the swing set, and the trampoline was a few feet in front of me. I don't exactly know why, but there happens to be a trampoline here. Maybe it's the original one. Maybe it's just fate.
Central Parking Farm. How you tore your dress. What a mess. I confess. That's not all
In September of 2011, in honor of the 25th anniversary of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Groupon sponsored an event to watch the film on a cold night inside Wrigley Field. 10,000 people, including myself, came. Why do we all love this movie so much? It's not just because it takes place in Chicago and it's hilarious. I think it's because we all enjoy reliving Ferris Bueller's fantasy day. What would life be like if you could be a high school kid again, but have everything go exactly how you wanted it to go for one day? A beautiful day in the city, ditching school with your best friend and the girl of your dreams, getting to do all the things we wish we could do, but never seem to have time for. Living life knowing it was impossible to fail. That to me is the perfect day.
So nowadays, the Von Steuben Parade is not on Dearborn. It's in a traditionally German area called Lincoln Square. And it just so happened that the parade was going on right when I was about to start shooting this documentary. So I went. Here's what happened. Come on, come on. So I'm here at the Von Steuben Day Parade. This is the exact same parade as in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I was just lucky that, I just started shooting today. This is the very first day. Can I wave a flag? Woo! Hey, do you know Twist and Shout?